Hey y'all, thanks for joining me again. Really pumped about this week. I started working on it the other day and just kept going and kept going. It ended up making the video way too long, so I'm gonna break it up into 2 weeks. Anyways, don't let me keep wasting our time. Let's get right into it. All right, before I get into start talking too much, I want you to pause the video and whoever you're with, your parents, yourself, your friends, go through the story of David and Goliath as detailed as you can remember. And we'll come back and we'll talk about it after that. So go ahead and pause the video now and then come back. Okay, good deal. I'm sure you did an excellent job there. But I want to read a verse from 1 Samuel where our story comes from and see if you got these details. All right, so here it goes. And Saul said to David, "You are not able to go against this Philistine to fight, for you are but a youth, and he has been a man of war from his youth." I bet you got something kind of similar to that in your story if you were very detailed. But let's keep going and see what you might not have remembered. But David said to Saul, "Your servant used to keep sheep for his father, and when there came a lion or a bear and took a lamb for the flock, I went after him and struck him and delivered it out of his mouth. And if he arose against me, I caught him by his beard and struck him and killed him. Your servant has struck down both lions and bears, and this Philistine shall be like one of them, for he has defied the armies of the living God." And David said, "The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine." And Saul said to David, "Go, and the Lord be with you." Now, be honest. Did you remember this part where David's talking about killing lions and bears out in the field? Even as someone who's heard it for over 40 years, right? That part's not fresh in my mind. All right, I'm mostly thinking about the part of him going and collecting stones, getting the sling, and then fighting the giant, right? Well, this part, reading back over this, it just flooded me with so much cool stuff to think about and talk about. Like I said, I went overboard and had to redo the video. So anyways, what I want to point out is not just this part of the verse that we probably forgot about, but I want to think about even deeper. Is there something that the Bible left out? Well, you say, okay, you're getting a little risky there. We can't talk about stuff that's not in the Bible or things that they forgot to put in the Bible. And yeah, I'm not doing that. But what I want to talk about is to think about all the time that David spent out in the field, being a shepherd, sitting around, doing things that aren't part of the big story. What do I mean? Well, do you think that he just sat in those fields and watched these sheep all the time and that was it? And then one day a bear came up and all of a sudden he was like, "Oh, look, I've got this sling right here. Let me get a rock and put it in there and chase this bear away." No. A slingshot was a typical tool for a shepherd. So for probably most of David's young life, as he's growing up, learning to be a shepherd, he's practicing. And no one recorded it. No one saw him because he was probably out on this field side by himself, or not. If not, he was with, a small group of other shepherds who were doing the same thing. And it's not like they went home and talked about it every day or told the whole world about it, because it's just what they did. They practiced. Practice a lot of times is the thing that no one sees, no one talks about. But I guarantee you, day after day, and probably hundreds, if not thousands of practices, trying to hit leaves on trees, sticking up, making up little targets out of sticks or something. Probably David had been using that slingshot thousands of times, getting his aim perfect for when he needed it against a lion or a bear. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not miraculous, any of the things that happened here, either him beating the lions and bears or him beating Goliath. David himself says the hand of the Lord was with him while he was defeating these wild animals against his flock. But that does not negate the fact that he was preparing himself as well. He wasn't only saying, well, I'm just going to sit around and do nothing and then God's going to take care of me. He was practicing and he was doing this while nobody knew about it, right? So I think, this should be pretty easy to see where I'm going with this. it's not always about just what you do when people are watching, right? So you can't just show up on game day and expect to be great, right? You got to show up to practice when nobody's watching, when there's nobody around. Sometimes you got to practice at home on, you say, like juggling or small skills that the coaches don't have time to spend hours on during practice. And you know that if you're playing at a high level, you already know that. And it's really about that self-discipline to get to that level to where you say, yeah, man, I'm real competitive when someone's around, but can you keep that competitive edge when no one else is around, right? And that's the same thing with our Christian life. We can't just be good when people are watching. We can't just read the Bible on Sundays at Sunday school or in church. We have to practice our Christian life all the time. When we're in our rooms, just having our own free time, watching YouTube or whatever, practice doing the right thing. When you're at school and there's no teachers around and you want to, have a little fun with the guys, or, maybe making a joke that you wouldn't if somebody was watching or somebody was listening, practicing those little things, the things that seem little when no one is looking, are the things that's really going to define your character for when the bigger test comes. And I think you guys all know that. It's not something I really have to tell you, but it's something that you need to hear over and over again, because even for me as an adult, your parents, your teachers, your coaches, we all struggle with this. When we're in the car, when we're at work and no one's around, it's hard for us to still do the same thing, but it's that practice over and over when no one's looking that helps us to do it the right way when someone